All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Eric Paulzine with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into the top value plays here for week 3. And I will say they aren't as obvious this week as they were kind of in week 1 and week 2. But that should mean that they're going to be lower owned. You know, Ashton Doolin and like Greg Dortch by the end of the week, those two players end up being pretty chalk for value plays. I don't think we're going to get that this week, which is something I like. You know, maybe Tyler Higbee and Tyler Conklin, people start to come around to those plays, but for the most part, I think we're going to get some pretty low owned value plays, which I'm pretty excited about. So let's get right into it. All right, guys. So starting out with the first value play, I'm going to start off with quarterback. Okay, if you guys watch my core plays video, you know that I actually like Mac Jones a decent amount on this slate, and the reason why I like Mac Jones is mostly just due to the fact of his matchup. Okay, the Baltimore Ravens just gave up a ton of points to Tua Tagovailoa, and the thing with it is like Tua actually did look very impressive on film when I went back and watched that game. So I don't know, like Mac Jones definitely needs to step up, but there were some big plays out there. Okay, it's not like it was just Tua dominating, but Tua was much more impressive than I thought. Like I kind of just said it was the Baltimore Ravens defense when really it was Jalen Waddle, it was Tyreek Hill, and Tua making a bunch of big plays. So like I'm coming back to this and I'm saying like, okay, still a good matchup. He should still be able to exploit this, but most of Mac Jones' production was just like across the middle to Jacoby Myers. And then Nelson Agholor had a very good game as well. I do love the price point of Mac Jones, and I do think he's going to be a safe value play. I do think he'll be able to get to 15 DK points. I do think he'll be able to 3X. Okay, and that's why I like him as a value price point play. If you're trying to pay up for studs and you're trying to find a value quarterback, Mac Jones does make a lot of sense, and you can easily stack him with Nelson Agholor or Jacoby Myers if you guys want to go that route. The next quarterback play that I really like is actually Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is a quarterback play that, you know, has caught my eye. He caught my eye in the preseason, and he's continued to look good thus far. And now he's kind of priced down, relatively speaking, compared to the field, if you will, at a good price point, at a soft price point. I know he's a value play for me last week against the Rams, but that was not exactly a matchup that I wanted to attack. He was still able to score 16 DK points, which if he does that for us in terms of trying to find a value play this week, meaning we're paying up for studs that should be safer and have just as much upside, we would absolutely take 16 DK points from Marcus Mariota at this price point. 5.5 going against the Seattle Seahawks is something that's highly intriguing to me. I do think the Seahawks are going to be a defense that we are going to be targeting. Now, Trey Lance got injured. It would have been very nice to see last week Trey Lance going up against Seattle, because obviously Trey Lance much more of a running quarterback. It would have been nice to see how Marcus Mariota would compare to that, because he has had 18 rushing attempts thus far this season and almost 100 yards rushing. He does have a rushing TD, but he looked sharp in the passing game last week. One of his INTs wasn't his fault. He's looked pretty good when they needed him to look good. So given this matchup, I do think that Marcus Mariota is going to be able to go out and have a good game. So he'd be the one quarterback value play that I feel safe about, but I also do like Mac Jones a decent amount. I'm still going out of my way to play Mac Jones if I'm really trying to find some value there. From there, we're going to be looking at the running backs. If you guys watch the core plays video, you know that I really love David Montgomery. To me, just based off of his price point, he should be able to 3X. Well, I shouldn't say should be able to 3X, but 3Xing at this price point for David Montgomery is not out of the question going against the Houston Texans, a team in which he should easily be able to run against. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon both looked very good against them last week. And then in the first week, obviously, Jonathan Taylor just ran wild on them. So David Montgomery should be in for that same kind of solid workload that he was in for last week and in the first week. And the production should be there for him as well. Like getting 100 yards rushing or 5 targets, depending on how they want to attack and use David Montgomery in this game. He should have a safe floor, and he could easily score a touchdown in this one. So David Montgomery at 5.9, just a simple and easy price point play to make, I think, on this slate. And then I will say, just Josh Jacobs, given this matchup as well, it's a matchup play. The Tennessee Titans have gotten cooked via the running game a lot this season. And Josh Jacobs definitely saw his workload increase last week, and I think that's something that's going to continue once again this week. They kind of feel that they need to get Josh Jacobs going. They need to establish the run, and I think that's why he's going to continue to get some workload. He had 20 opportunities last week, and I think he's going to continue to get those opportunities. I'm not saying he's someone you have to go out of your way to play this week, but he also is at a very soft price point in which it makes it easy to play him. After that, like Damien Pierce, a lot of people wanted to play him in week 1, and I was kind of on the wait and see approach, especially in a game that could have been a blowout, and thus like Rex Burkhead would have been playing more as the third down back. It ended up being that Rex Burkhead did end up playing more, which was kind of strange, which was kind of a head scratcher. We did see Pierce come in and play over 60% of the snaps in week 2, and the workload was there for him, getting 6 16 total opportunities and looked good doing it. Okay, he had over 70 yards total, which is obviously pretty good. Going against the Chicago Bears that just got gashed by Aaron Jones. And, they didn't really give up much to A.J. Dillon, but this is a team in which I do think as the game wears down, you will be able to run on them. And this is a game in which should be a close game, which should mean that we're not going to see that much of Rex Burkhead. Like Rex Burkhead is not going to be forced onto the field because they're in more of a passing down situation. So at 5K, yes, this could finally be the game in which we're going out of our way to play Pierce. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out and has a really good game as well. And I will mention, like, Jerick McKinnon, just while we're at it, like, Jerick McKinnon could have easily had the touchdowns that CEH has had. They're playing the same amount of snaps, and McKinnon has not looked bad. He's been using the passing game a little bit. Like, it just wouldn't be shocking that if the Chiefs were going to be scoring a lot, for McKinnon to finally get one of those touchdowns instead of CEH. Like, that just wouldn't be too shocking. He has been on the field in certain situations. The ball just hasn't come his way. It wouldn't be shocking to see him score a touchdown. And if you're trying to find a value price point play, like, I don't hate it. Last week on the game-by-game breakdown, I kind of called out that Raheem Mostert was the better runner last in week 1 for the Miami Dolphins. So, like, I kind of thought that it would be more of a 50-50 split come to week 2. Well, it turns out the Miami Dolphins saw that as well. Raheem Mostert was very impressive via the running game last week. 11 carries, 51 yards. Then he was also used in the passing game, 3 targets for 28 yards. That kind of goes back to what the Miami Dolphins want to do this year. They want to play with speed, okay? Like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You look at some of the other receivers that they're playing. They want to play with speed. And so it makes sense why Raheem Mostert, one of the fastest players in the NFL, would be getting a lot more work, and he has looked impressive doing it thus far. It's not really a case where, like, Chase Edmonds has looked bad. It's just that Raheem Mostert has looked better. So to get a kind of potential RB1, and I think he will still be the RB1 at 4.5 is highly intriguing to me. Now, obviously they're going against the Buffalo Bills. This game could be a shootout or it could be a blowout, okay? I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are all that great of a team just yet, and Miami was able to put up a ton of points against them, okay? So, and they gave up a lot of points. So maybe the Buffalo Bills just go out and have a really great game, and then thus Chase Edmonds would be in the game more than Mostert because Chase Edmonds is still the passing down back, but still at 4.5 in a game that's going to be a shootout. I could see a path where Mostert does have a great game. And then just throwing out there, Tyler Algier, just someone to monitor really. 10 rushing attempts last week, 30 carries, and he did seem to get better as the game went on. It wouldn't be shocking to see him kind of be the goal line back for them in a game that they should be able to run on. The Seahawks against Tyler Algier could be someone that continues to get more and more snaps as the season goes on, and maybe gets 12 rushing attempts next week for 60 yards and falls into the end zone. Like, it's not too hard to see that happening. I definitely am taking the wait and see approach, but if you guys wanted to play him in like 5% of your builds, trying to get lucky, I don't hate that. But once again, not a lock and load. Now getting into the value receiver plays, guys. So Devonta Smith, just given his game on Monday night, he hasn't been price corrected because he went out and had a very strong week 2 game, kind of the bounce back game that we were expecting. 7 targets, 80 yards, 15 DK points. And given the matchup with the Washington Commanders, like, still a very solid price point for someone that should be able to get to double-digit DK points and possibly scores a touchdown in a game that could be much more higher scoring than people think. I do just want to point out Josh Palmer here. Like, if Keenan Allen is still going to be inactive, Josh Palmer is going to be a strong play. Now, he only had 13 DK points last week, but if you watch that game, there's like 3 passes in which Justin Herbert just wasn't hitting him in stride. It was always behind him or above him or down below. Like, it was just kind of random miscues that Justin Herbert had passing the ball to Josh Palmer. It was nothing that Josh Palmer was doing poorly. He was still able to score a touchdown, still had 8 targets, still scored 13 DK points. If Keenan Allen's out, I'm just going to be loading up on Josh Palmer at this price point because he's going to be a great value. Now looking at Greg Dortch. So Greg Dortch only had 4 targets last week, but he still had 55 yards and a touchdown. Okay, so he's been very productive thus far in the first 2 weeks as a value play that we've been on. I actually still don't mind him in this game going against the LA Rams, a game in which should be higher scoring, we would imagine. And I would almost imagine that Marquise Brown would be getting more of Jalen Ramsey if they choose to do that, which then would mean that Greg Dortch gets a softer matchup, and that'd be something that we would want to attack. I do think he's going to get more targets in this one, and this is assuming that Rondale Moore sits once again. Greg Dortch has been impressive. He is someone I do want to still play. Not a lock and load because he is priced above 4K, but still a strong price point play for you this week. So now looking at Brashad Perriman, obviously Mike Evans is going to be out in this one. Chris Godwin banged up. The receiving core for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are currently injured. We got Julio Jones. We have to wait and see if he's going to play. Russell Gage been very unimpressed with him. So Brashad Perryman, a guy that came in and had 5 targets and a touchdown last week, filling in for kind of Mike Evans in that role, I could see him being able to hit value. I don't see him going off and dominating, especially against that Packers defense that looked much more improved last week as compared to the first week. They were able to shut down Darnell Mooney and not really let any Bears pass catcher do anything. I expect more of that from the Green Bay Packers this week. So yeah, Brashad Perryman could be someone that hits value, but I don't love him. But yes, increased role, we do want to look at that. All right, guys, now Ben Skoranek, a value play that I've been on 2 weeks in a row, kind of hit for us in week 1 on that showdown slate. Last week actually played more snaps, actually played 80% of the snaps, but only had 3 targets for 3.6 DK points. Now I will say the one target that he wasn't able to catch was a poorly thrown ball from Matthew Stafford. It was about a 20-yard play that would have resulted in about 3 DK points. You add that on there. 6.6 is not terrible for a value play, but he has been playing a lot. Once again, this is kind of a game that I expect to be a shootout, and if he's going to continue to play that much, I mean, guys, he was in the game as a fullback for them. Like, they want him on the field. It's strange that he was a fullback. It was very strange there. Like, there's like 5 plays in which he was the lead blocker for Cam Akers. I don't think he was ever the lead blocker for Darrell Henderson, which is maybe something to monitor there. I don't know. But yeah, he was on the field a lot. And if it's going to be a high-scoring game, sure, yes, we're trying to find ways to attack that game. It'd be Ben Skoranek here, which I don't mind that. And now we're getting into 2 value plays that have been playing a ton. We look at Mac Hollins, who's played over 80% of the receiver snaps the first 2 weeks. Week 1 against the Chargers, we discovered that they are just a strong defense. Mac Hollins only had 1 target, only 2.6 DK points. Week 2 against the Cardinals, a much more easier matchup, he was able to get 8 targets for 5 receptions, 66 yards. We're not looking for much here from Mac Hollins, but if we can get 10 DK points from a play at 3.3 against the Tennessee Titans, who, yes, they just look terrible. Like, it wouldn't be shocking to see Mac Hollins score double-digit DK points this week, and I could easily see that happen. Given that price point, like, Mac Hollins is going to be someone I am interested in this week. Then I just want to point out Shi Smith as well, who's been playing over 75% of the snaps over the first 2 weeks for the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield missing him on a touchdown. They just haven't been able to connect. Okay, Shi Smith did look really good in the preseason. He's pretty much I don't want to say DJ Moore. He's pretty much a slightly worse version of DJ Moore. Still trying to get acclimated to kind of the NFL game, I guess, if you will. But he has looked impressive. He's been able to get open. If Baker Mayfield and him can start connecting, I could see him having a big game. Could he get to 10 DK points at the bare minimum price? He can. Okay, 6 targets for a guy that could have easily scored a touchdown last week, who's playing a lot of snaps. Like, that is intriguing to me. Going against the Saints, which I don't know, this could be a terrible game, and that'd be the reason why you don't even think about him. But if you want to throw him to like 5% of your GPPs, once again, like, I'm perfectly fine with that. All right, and now get into the tight end plays, guys. I will say Tyler Higbee is still super cheap just for the amount of snaps and targets and usage he is getting. I mean, he has played in 94 and 98% of the snaps for the LA Rams thus far. He's got 9 and 11 targets, averaging 11.5 DK points. He is certainly still underpriced at this price point. I'm not saying you have to play them, but I'm saying you could, and I wouldn't blame you because he is still pretty cheap for that usage. Same thing goes for Tyler Conklin, guys, as well. 9 targets, 7 receptions, averaging 10.8 DK points. Tyler Conklin played 92 and 100% of the Jets snaps last week. He's going to continue to play those snaps. Tyler Conklin is also still way too cheap. And I will say Evan Ingram, sure, he's not playing a ton of snaps, only about like 65 to 70% of the snaps for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is certainly enough for a pass-catching tight end, as we saw last week where he was able to score 11.6 DK points on 8 targets. In week 1, it wasn't a disappointing performance given the price point. Like, we would still take 6.8 DK points at this price point, but the LA Chargers are a great defense, so that's why I'm not really going gung-ho over any of the Jaguars this week as much so as I had been in previous weeks. And then 2 tight end value plays just to monitor are going to be Logan Thomas and then also Irv Smith, but we'll start with Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas saw his snaps go up from 62% to 73% in week 2. Now, that's probably going to be like the max snaps he gets, maybe gets up to 80% of the snaps, but the snaps have increased. The targets were still there. He's scored 12.7 DK points and 7.5 DK points, has a strong matchup going against the Philadelphia Eagles. He'd be a tight end value play that I'm looking to play as well. Should have a decent floor, but I still like Tyler Conklin a little bit more than him, just given the price point. And then looking at Irv Smith at 3.1, this might end up being the best tight end value, just given the price point. Irv Smith saw snaps from week 1 at 31% go up in week 2 to 56% of the snaps, while Munn's snaps went from 65%, the backup tight end for the Vikings, went from 65% of the snaps in week 1 to 46% of the snaps in week 2. And that's a number that I expect to go down. Thus, I expect Irv Smith to go up, especially in a game that could be a shootout. You know, he had 8 targets, 5 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Like, Irv Smith looked very impressive, and actually he could have had another touchdown had him and Kirk Cousins been able to connect earlier on in the game as well. So yes, Irv Smith, a great value at 3.1. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. If you guys want to check out the 9 to 5 sponsor, we got Sports Battle app, which is a prop-based app. You guys can download that on Android or iOS. If you do a $50 deposit, you get $5 back. They are matching up to $100 in that cash back reward as well. Yeah, check them out. I like it better than some of the other prop-based apps that are out there currently. I've had issues with other ones, and so far, like, I've been enjoying Sports Battle app a lot more than those other ones. So check it out for you guys yourself, especially if you have been having some of those issues with some of the other prop-based apps that are out there. That might just be me. But either way, I've still been enjoying this one. So if you guys want to, you can check it out. That's all I have for you guys this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And as always, let's keep cashing.